What's up, everybody? And today we're checking out USAF declared the SR-72 DarkStar is finally ready to fly. This is by Wild Iron. I will leave a link down below to the OG video like I always do. Please go over to Wild Iron, give it a subscribe, give it a like, all that good stuff. But I'm going to be interested in watching this because the SR-72 seems to be kind of like the newest thing we've got that's kind of on the precipice of coming out right now, right? We know there's other things being made in the US, right? We know that we've got the Gen 6 aircraft and stuff like that. But the SR-72 seems to be the one it's right there on the edge of it being released. And it's also kind of mysterious in a way, isn't it? Anyway, before we get started, a couple things I want to talk about. Firstly, Chug. If you haven't checked out these incredible drinking vessels, 10% off, link down below. Support a small local business here in the UK. Absolutely amazing bits of kit if you want to look like an absolute legend while you drink your drink. The other thing I want to say, I'm in a good mood. I was just listening to... Does anyone remember this? Does anyone remember this? The Tactical Chinwag podcast that I had 2-3 years ago. That's me dad on that podcast with me, by the way. What probably the best video I've made on YouTube, in my opinion. That podcast with my dad was phenomenal. I've been watching through it. The reason I've been watching it is there's something big that's going to be happening for this channel in the next couple of weeks. Something that's not happened before. Something that I am incredibly excited about. And it's something that's really going to change this channel a lot. And I'm very excited for it. And I can't really say anything just yet. I've got to do I've got to tick a few boxes first. And then when it's official, then I can tell you guys. And I'm very excited. And it's going to give me the ideal opportunity to bring back the Tactical Chinwag podcast. And I think after having a long time of a break from it and having a good think about it, I think I can approach the podcast a little bit differently. And I'd love to know what you all think. I'd love to know what you think in the comments on what you think about me bringing back the podcast. I think it would be really cool. We can change it up a little bit, do something a little bit different, maybe start doing stuff in person a little bit. But let me know what you think anyway. Other than that, let's shut up. Let's see what's going on with the SR-72. I really do want to know what is going on with this, and are we actually going to see it in public properly for the first time? Let's have a watch.
When the legendary SR-71 Blackbird ended its service in the U.S. Air Force, many thought that area...
When did the SR-71 finish up in the US? Let me do a quick Google. SR-71. When did it finish its service? I'm going to quickly Google this and we're going to find out. Retired in 1989 temporarily. And then 1998 final, but then NASA also retired it in 1999, so they used it for an extra year. So it's been a while. It's been 25, 26 years. It's been a while.
Reconnaissance had reached its peak, not even knowing that its successor, the SR-72, would soon appear. This hypersonic drone from Lockheed Martin is designed to embody the most daring technological ideas of the recent decades, becoming a ghost and true nightmare for enemy air defense systems.
So it was the SR-72 that was in the new Top Gun film, right? Was it in Top Gun? I tell you what, if you've not seen the new Top Gun film, it's really, really good. It's very good. A very, very good film. Please go watch it.
But can it surpass its great ancestor in all aspects? We've got the answer to this question and more in today's video.
Boom.
If you were asked to name the most memorable U.S. military aircraft, Lockheed's SR-71 Blackbird would probably be at the top.
I don't know. You got the F-117. That's pretty iconic, right? The F-22 is iconic. But I mean... the most memorable aircraft? I don't know. I think the F-117's the most memorable. It's the most unique. I mean, you could say the B-2 bomber, couldn't you? I got hair on my eye here. The B-2 bomber is also incredible. I don't know if it's the most unique.
Such a background, it's strange to realize that its origins partly owe to the incident that occurred in the 1960s with pilot Gary Powers, whose U-2C Dragon Lady was shot down by a surface-to-air missile over Soviet territory.
Wow.
After what happened and taking into account the speed of development of radar and missile technologies of its main opponent of those years, the United States realized that in the future, Dragon Lady would be even more vulnerable during reconnaissance missions, which meant it was time for a change. In late 1957, the CIA asked Lockheed to build a new undetectable spy plane codenamed Archangel, a nod to an earlier U-2 program called Angel. Kelly Johnson, head of Lockheed's secretive Skunk Works division in Burbank, California, took the reins of the project. The goal was very straightforward: to fly faster and higher than the U-2.
Yeah, I get it. He's giving us a bit of a history lesson here, isn't he? But the truth is, I just want to know about the SR-72.
Stealth, of course, was also not discounted by anyone over there. Moreover, after a meeting with the CIA in March of 1959, the aircraft prototype was changed to reduce its radar cross-section by 90%. During the development of the device, only the first letter and the number 12 were left from the name Archangel, indicating the number of the version chosen by the command in the chain of designs proposed by Skunk Works.
It is a very unique design, isn't it? It is, and there are. I know they were saying what's the most unique one, and I still think the F-117 is. But there are certain aircraft that you just have to see the silhouette of them, and you're like, oh, I know what that is. Like, it's just the silhouette, isn't it? And you can even take that further back in the UK. You see the silhouette of a Lancaster bomber, you know it's a Lancaster, or a Spitfire. You're like, I know it's a Spitfire. Do you know what I mean? Like, there's just certain shapes that you see in the sky, and you're like, that's it. That's it.
This is how the A-12 was born. This rebranding not only corresponded to the traditions of the military nomenclature, but also greatly reduced the excessive attention towards U.S. aircraft on the part of foreign spies. However, even before the A-12 entered service, its intended purpose of replacing the U-2 in flights over the USSR and Cuba became extremely unlikely. By that time, Soviet radar systems increased their blip-to-scan ratios, which left the A-12 vulnerable.
At what point are we going to skip the aircraft, though? If we're just talking about reconnaissance, if we strictly talk about reconnaissance, I think, and I'll give this analogy. Do you remember when we went from CDs to MP3s, right? We went from CD, Sony Walkman CD players to MP3 players, right? The little ones that you'd have in your pocket with a little toggle so you could switch songs. Between there was a lot of stuff that were really cool. The mini disc player, that was really cool. Do you remember that? I got one of them. But what I'm trying to say is we have the CD player. In this case, it would be like the SR-71, right? The old school way of taking music on the go. And then the MP3, MP4 player, in my opinion, is probably just stuff in space, satellites and stuff like that for reconnaissance. And so is there going to be a jump where we just don't need aircraft for reconnaissance anymore, that we have enough satellites in the sky? And I want to preface this by, I'm saying this out of a place of ignorance, of not really knowing the full scope, right? Like, I'm not super smart on this type of stuff. And so what I'm trying to say is, would it be plausible to just skip the whole aircraft thing and the man-powered thing and go straight to satellites? Is that an option, or are we not able to get enough detail and current detail, right? Because the thing with throwing up a drone for reconnaissance is you're getting on the ground information, what's going on right now, like it's instant. Whereas a satellite, I mean, the closest we can think of is like Google Maps, which is like a picture from 5 years ago, right? But is there a gap there that will eventually be reached where satellites can just give you that information straight away? You know, that's an interesting take. I want to know what people think of.
And by 1965, satellite photo reconnaissance programs had reached such an extent that flights over Soviet territory were no longer necessary for the effective collection of strategic and intelligence information.
There you go.
Despite the fact that all 13 A-12 spy planes were retired in 1968, they still managed to fly over North Korea and demonstrate their capabilities during Operation Black Shield at speeds of about Mach 3.1 and an altitude of 80,000 feet over North Vietnam, photographing surface-to-air missile sites.
That's mental,
But
isn't
even
it?
before the A-12 was retired, the SR-71 Blackbird was already hot on its ancestors' heels. In November of 1967, both reconnaissance aircraft flew 3 identical routes along the Mississippi River, approximately 1 hour apart, with data collection systems turned on. And although the A-12's camera had a wider field of view, the SR-71 collected types of intelligence that the former could not, and in better quality. Additionally, while the A-12 was designed to optionally use one of 3 different types of high-definition cameras, the SR-71 had simultaneous photography and signals intelligence capabilities.
Interesting.
Overall, the Blackbird was more versatile, had a 2-seat cockpit versus the A-12 single, offered more fuel capacity, and was designed for everyday use. Well,
that ship is it's such a bizarre looking ship. Aircraft, isn't it? It's so bizarre, but amazing at the same time.
The A-12 was a stealthy craft that was used only on special occasions. After the SR-71 entered service in 1966, it began to break literally every possible record. From 1976 to this day, it's been and remains the fastest jet aircraft in the world, thanks to its impressive cruising speed of Mach 3.3. Not to mention the records for highest sustained flight and also the fastest flight time between London and New York, these being set during 2 separate flights in 1974.
You can't tell us that and then not tell us how fast it was. Don't say that it set the record and then not tell us what the record is.
Blackbird reconnaissance missions over North Vietnam and Laos in 1968, reconnaissance missions have averaged 1 mission per week for nearly 2 years. By 1970, they switched to 2 flights per week, and in 1972, they were carrying out 1 flight every day. Such dense service led to the fact that during the Vietnam War, the North Vietnamese fired about 800 air defense systems at the SR-71, none of which reached their target.
Yeah, I'd very much doubt they would reach the target. Not only is the altitude like crazy high, but the speed is unreal, isn't it?
The total number of missiles that Blackbird dodged during its service exceeded 4,000.
Holy shit!
Yes, this plane could literally fly away from missiles when one put the pedal to the floor, per se.
Literally 4,000 missiles were trying to catch it, and they're just chilling in the cockpit like, yeah, no big deal, I'm just going to take some photos of you failing.
Due to the high cost of production and maintenance, the U.S. Air Force proposed to Congress that the Blackbird be retired in 1989.
Yeah.
Many Blackbird fans are still convinced that a certain part of the military and congressional detractors who lack knowledge about the SR-71 and any understanding of the nature
The audio changed and it like went up on the video, which is weird.
of aerial reconnaissance were to blame for the departure of the legend, which is why they were extremely negative towards SR-71 by the early 1980s and regularly operated with fictitious amounts of $400 to $700 million per year to support the aircraft and
that's mental money, that, innit? That's crazy money.
$85,000 for the cost of 1 flight hour. The only one to operate the last 2 air
per hour. What? That amount of money is crazy for 1 hour of flight.
For the Blackbirds after the 1990s was NASA. The rest of the legendary Scouts were placed in museums.
I wish I could see one.
Time passed, and there were still no worthy successors to Blackbird on the horizon. Of course, the F-22 Raptor and F-35 Lightning II fighters, which came
the F-22, also known as the best-looking aircraft ever developed.
out of the Lockheed machine, are the real rock stars of their generations.
Yeah.
But they and the reconnaissance aircraft had 2 different tasks. Lockheed Martin first announced the SR-72 publicly in 2013, announcing that the successor to the SR-71 Blackbird, or as it was later called, the Son of Blackbird, would be the same size as its legendary ancestor.
They should have kept the Son of... I know DarkStar's cool, but the Son of Blackbird's a pretty cool name as well, isn't it?
But could fly with hypersonic speed up to Mach 6. Naturally, such statements blew the minds of the media and aviation fans. After all, previously only the experimental North American X-15 could boast such speeds. Many figured that Lockheed had just been talking specifically about the aircraft, but in fact, they were describing the future device as a platform for intelligence, surveillance, and reconnaissance.
We've already spoke about this new platform that the US is really trying to adopt, and I think it's fantastic because I've said so many times on this channel, as a former soldier, intelligence is the most important thing. It really is. If you can just know more stuff about what's going on around you, you're going to be better at your job. And so if you have all these different vehicles and equipment talking to each other, even like the new scope on the US rifle, what's it called? Is it called Vortex or something? Oh, what was it called? It might have been. I can't remember. But the fact that that can like communicate and give your oppos, your people beside you information as well about distance. Like, you can imagine at what point where everything's connected to each other, right? Where an aircraft can ping a location and it comes up on your NVGs or it comes up on your scope and it gives you that information, or it just tells you in the radio straight away, instantly. Or maybe you have a visor and you see it and it's not an NVG. Do you know what I mean? Like, that type of quick information just turns you into like a... It turns you into like a spy, like a Master Chief, doesn't it? Do you know what I mean? Like, you just know everything straight away.
ISR. You could have imagined that the aircraft would turn out to be a hypersonic UAV. The main task for Skunkworks engineers, as expected, was the development of engines for the future drone. After all, it had to cover several flight modes at once: subsonic, supersonic, and hypersonic.
The engineering, the geniuses, they are legit geniuses. Like, the engineering to pull that off is just mental, isn't it?
To achieve design speeds by the time of publication in 2013, the team had already been working closely with Aerojet Rocketdyne for more than 7 years to develop a method for integrating a ready-made turbine with a hypersonic ramjet engine, scramjet, to propel the aircraft from standstill to those cherished speeds of Mach 6 and higher. The future drone's engine began with a conventional Pratt & Whitney F100 and...
Did you see that? There was like an image going around where an AI created like a perfect engine or something like that. Like, the AI created like the visual for the perfect engine and they developed it and it took it like no time at all. I'm wondering with these types of aircraft, how long is it going to take before they're like throw the requirements in a model and let's see what AI spits back when it comes to the design and the mechanics of this craft? Because surely it's only going to be a matter of time before that type of stuff can just design it for you and you can just like 3D print it or some shit. Obviously, it's going to be way more elaborate than that. But you get what I'm saying, right? Like, surely it's only a matter of time before AI designs this shit for us.
General Electric F-110 turbofan engine is the basis. This helped the device take off from a standstill and accelerate to supersonic speeds like a regular fighter. But as soon as the figure got to about Mach 3, the second part of the engine came into play. It's rumored to be a dual-mode ramjet engine that uses the enormous pressure of incoming air at supersonic speeds and a variable air intake design to create deliberately directed shock waves for compression.
We've heard about this, haven't we?
Such a solution will help the aircraft not only surpass its legendary ancestor Blackbird, but also move even higher than the hypersonic barrier of Mach 5 set for the Skunkworks team.
Mach 5. Going beyond Mach 5. People back in, like, when cars were first invented thought if you went past 30 mile an hour that your body would disintegrate. Imagine if they knew we were trying to break Mach 5. Can you imagine? Like, that's crazy. Imagine what it's going to be like in another 100, 200 years. I mean, it'll all be drones. I guarantee it'll all be drones. People won't be flying these things. But the speed, it's just crazy, isn't it?
The second challenge for Son of Blackbird will almost certainly be extreme temperatures. Therefore, specialists will have to make sure that the insane speed coupled with the heat doesn't turn the glider into hot jelly.
Can I just say, it says that it's finally ready to fly, and I was hoping there would be like a little some pictures or something that it's like I don't know, like we're having a bit of a history lesson here, and I feel like we already know quite a bit of this stuff already.
The team will definitely benefit from using composites, high-performance mixtures of carbon, ceramics, and metals in its design, especially for critical UAV components. For comparison, a typical steel hull will begin to melt at 2,500 degrees Fahrenheit, while the SR-72 will need to withstand at temperatures of 3,500 degrees Fahrenheit or higher to survive successfully.
Yeah.
After the United States became the world leader in hypersonic technology thanks to NASA's X-43 and Boeing...
Well, that X-43, I think that's the fastest thing, isn't it? The NASA's X-40, I think that's faster than this Boeing one, if I'm correct. They're all drones, though. And they go fast. How fast does the X-43 go again? Let me Google it real quick. NASA X-43 top speed. You're talking Mach 9.6. Mach 9.6. That is so fast. That's mind-blowing, that, innit? That is absolutely mind-blowing. Does it really go that fast? 9.6? There's no way it goes that fast. Like, surely, I guarantee you're distorting time. If you were in that aircraft, there would be some sort of distortion of time because you're going so fast. You'd have to do the calculations. But surely, like, yeah.
Boeing's X-51 programs, it shifted its focus from these advanced systems to combating the global terror threat for several decades. In 2017, Lockheed Martin Executive Vice President and Skunkworks CEO Rob Weiss told the media that hypersonic propulsion testing for the SR-72 had been completed, and the team was now approaching the start of work on the SR-72 Flight Research Vehicle, FRV, a technology prototype the size of an F-22 Raptor, about 60 feet, with a single engine capable of flying at Mach 6 for several minutes. Just 1 year later, Lockheed Vice President Jack O'Banion shed a little more light on the company's achievements in the field of additive manufacturing and computer modeling.
I know that we've laughed quite a few times on this channel about like Lockheed Martin and all that lot having like UFOs, you know, and the deconstructing the UFOs so they can learn and make better. Like, I know there's all that fun stuff that we like to pretend that these companies, and maybe they do, right? Whatever. I'm not going to get into that. But what I'm trying to say is, if we can take all that mysteriousness away from it and just talk about these companies, like what's actually in development, right? You see these new prototype aircraft. I'd love to be able to just sit down with the CEO and be like, what does the future look like to you? Like, what does it look like to you when it comes to aircraft? Is it all drones? Is that the future to you? Is it reaching a speed that is beyond even visually being able to see? You know, like what is the future of this aircraft, and what are you what's the struggle? Like, what's the first thing that comes to mind when you're trying to develop the next aircraft? Do you know what I mean? Like, I'd love to know, is it just energy? Is it trying to have enough energy to get to where you need to be with these things? Is it material? And what does the future look like to you? I'd love to sit down with one of these CEOs. Maybe if I start the Tactical Chingmad podcast back up, maybe I can get one of these guys on. That'd be amazing, wouldn't it?
Saying that building such a device in the early 2010s would have been simply impossible. And 3D printing allowed the company to even integrate the system cooling to the engine. In March of 2018, the Russian president announced the start of an unofficial hypersonic arms race, introducing the X-47M2 Kinzhal hypersonic missiles. After this, even mention of the SR-72 program disappeared from the official Lockheed Martin resources. It's as if all the efforts in partnership with Aerojet Rocketdyne were put on hold. However, representatives from Lockheed and the U.S. Air Force have repeatedly mentioned the use of new hypersonic vehicles, including the SR-72, as hypersonic missile launch platforms.
Oh.
While releasing or launching hypersonic missiles in high-speed flight poses a string of engineering challenges due to the enormous pressure and heat, Lockheed Martin has already proven the viability of successfully launching air-to-air missiles at speeds greater than Mach 3 using YF-12 prototype interceptors.
So this thing's going to be going like upwards of Mach 5, and then it's going to just pop out a hypersonic missile. Firstly, how does that even work through engineering? Because my presumption is all the missiles would have to be inside for it to reach over Mach 5. And the moment some sort of thing opens for a missile to be released, surely that alone going at that speed would just, like, you're opening some sort of hatch for this missile to be released, it would just disintegrate the whole ship. Like, as soon as it catches the air, like, how does that even work? Does that mean that the missile would have to be outside of I keep saying ship, outside the aircraft? Does the missile have to be on the outside of the aircraft as it's taken off, and then would it even reach the speeds? Like, you're talking about launching a missile at speeds that are just crazy. Like, wasn't this supposed to be just a reconnaissance, like, aircraft? And now they're thinking about releasing supersonic missiles?
At a certain point, the SR-72 seemingly died out as far as the public eye was concerned. But in 2021, Air Force's Profession of Arms Center of Excellence released a video of a single-engine flight research aircraft that closely resembles renderings previously shown by Lockheed. And just a year later, the sequel to the acclaimed film Top Gun: Maverick was released in cinemas, where viewers were shown a certain DarkStar, a hypersonic aircraft created by none other than the Skunk Works engineers.
Yes.
And apparently they succeeded
It's such a great film as well. It's really, really good.
in making it look like a real aircraft. It's unlikely that the filmmakers managed to accelerate to Mach 10, but the film's producer, either jokingly or seriously, stated that the U.S. Navy noted the Chinese satellite's interest in the device. To do this, he even had to change his route to photograph DarkStar.
That's
Although, who
pretty
knows?
cool.
Maybe the PRC military just has American film fans among their
They just want to take pictures so they can copy the next aircraft. They're like, we need new ideas. Let's just photograph more American aircraft.
ranks. One way or another, in recent interviews, the first flight of the SR-72 prototype was scheduled for 2025, and the aircraft itself may enter service as early as 2030.
I don't know.
Considering that in the early 1930s, the U.S. Air Force planned to introduce the 6th generation NGAD fighter into service, one can only hope that the budget will withstand the pressure from two Iron
gonna let
Birds
it
at
end.
once, coupled with the new B-21 Raider bombers and hundreds of collaborative combat aircraft drones,
Yeah.
these being developed as future representatives of the U.S. Air Force fleet.
Yeah.
What do you think? Will the successor to the SR-71 Blackbird emerge from the shadows by the 2030s? Or are we not destined to see the latest UAV until 2040? Let us know your opinion in the comments below.
Okay, decent video. It didn't really give us that much new information, which is a shame. Maybe I got a little bit clickbaited a little bit there. But what I think is, and I've said this before, and I'll say it again, I think we're just on that bridge where we're about to transition to, when it comes to reconnaissance, we're about to transition to fully unmanned stuff. And I think the SR-72 is an aircraft that is the final evolution of a product that might be ending. Does that make sense? Like, it's almost as if you're getting the newest, and I was giving the CD player and the MP3 player earlier references. It's like you're getting the brand new, amazing CD player, but people are already starting to use MP3s at this point. And so, do we not just flip over? Do you know what I mean? Like, the SR-72, can we go up to Mach 10, like on Top Gear? But you put in a really, really good pilot at risk. I don't know. I'd love to know your thoughts in the comments. Let me know what you think. I'll leave a link down below to the original video. Go over there, give it a like, subscribe, all that good stuff. Really good video. Let me know what you think about the bringing back the podcast. I'd love to know what you think on that. And definitely check out Chug, 10% off. Link down below. And until next time, I love you all. Have a wonderful day. Goodbye.